Hey soldiers, how much more will it cost you to heat your home this winter? Well, I can guarantee that for most, it will cost significantly more.
The hell you say?
All right, we're going to talk about why it's going to cost more and what you can do to control your cost of staying warm. Now, this is a really important issue because there's a reason more people live around the equator than at the poles. That reason is because cold kills. Heat does to an extent, but the major thing about heat is it's uncomfortable, but not as deadly as cold. All right, as you can see from the chart, the majority of Americans heat their home with natural gas, 49%. Then we have another group of Americans who heat with electricity at 34%. That's the next largest source that folk derive heat from for their homes in the winter. You also have 5% using propane. There are quite a few people in my area that use propane to heat. And then we have wood. Yes, there are people who use wood. We actually do sometimes, okay? But for the majority, we rely on natural gas. We do have our rate locked in. I've talked about that many times. Prices tend not to go down, especially for energy. So it might be a good idea to look into that. That's just one of the things that you can do in order to try to control your costs from spiraling out of control in the future. So that's the lay of the land in terms of the consumption. Now, when it comes to what we're looking at in terms of what people will pay for natural gas this winter, we're going to get into why they're going to pay that in just a moment. But let's look at the actual expense. Now, for those who heat with natural gas, they are looking at, on average, a 34% increase in the cost of heating their home. Now, this is according to the National Energy Assistance Director's Office. They're saying that, on average, gas bills will hit $952. Okay, that's going to be really painful for many, many Americans and very unfortunate. Now, if you heat with oil, we saw that a portion of America was heating with heating oil. They're going to realize a 13% increase on average with their bills. That's already expensive, and they're looking at, now while their percentage increase is less than the natural gas source, their real dollar increase is just frightening. According to that same organization, NEADA, they're looking at bills of up to $2,115 just to heat the home on average. Now, if you're heating with electricity, you're going to see the smallest hit. Okay, they're looking at 7% or $1,328. So that's, in percentage wise, it's smaller than any of the other sources that we've seen. Dollar wise, it's mid tier. So this is what we're looking at. Now, why is this happening? Well, you know why. Because we've got a situation where, on the one hand, we have a green energy policy that a lot of which is pie in the sky and not ready for prime time. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm all for renewable forms of energy in their time. You can tell that the electric car industry is just not there yet. You can tell that because states are saying we're going to pretty much make it so that that's what you have to buy by 2034, 2035. Okay. If an industry is healthy and it is attracting demand, then you don't need these kinds of mandates to help it out. There was nothing that the government needed to do in order to mandate a switch from a landline phone to a smartphone. Okay, there was no, we're going to cut the landline phone off at some point and then you'll have to buy a smart. That didn't happen. There was no government mandate that said, okay, we're going to demand that you get a streaming service and cut cable. No, people in both cases, the cell phone and the cable companies, they said, let's migrate to a better service. Let's migrate to more convenience, more technology in the cell phone from the landline. Let's migrate to lower cost and greater choice in terms of streaming. So what we've got is a situation where Russia has the other half of this. You got the green energy policy that is, in the United States, this is what it looks like. It looks like the president's administration is making it very difficult to explore and extract energy here in America. Then we also have an issue where refineries, we haven't built one in a while. So we are in a situation like Iran. Iran is, they're an oil producing country. But because of a lack of refineries, they are in a situation where gas prices, you wouldn't believe how high gas prices are in Iran, considering how much oil they produce. Okay, and in addition to the green energy policy, we got the war in Russia, Ukraine. So what that war in Russia and Ukraine is manifesting itself in terms of energy policy is Europe. They were especially Germany, getting all that energy from Russia. They actually laughed at Donald Trump when he spoke before the UN and advised them that it was a bad idea to get so much energy and be so reliant on Russia for their ability to heat their homes and offices. The guy, they actually laughed at Trump. They laughed at him. And I'd love to be a fly on the wall right now because, trust me, they ain't laughing now. So you've got the pressures built up on demand, on supply rather, because of the sanctions on Russia. If you look at keeping Europe in this war from the standpoint of sanctions, remember, a lot of these European countries that are affected directly by this lack of energy are in NATO as well. So in order to keep them in this effort, they're going to have to be able to heat their homes. They're going to have to provide their people with energy over the winter in some way, shape, or form, or otherwise they're going to have a revolt. Okay, and that government will change, and they won't be in the Ukrainian war in the way that they are now in any event. So the U.S. cannot replace Russian natural gas using liquid natural gas that we import to Europe. It's just not tenable. And what's happening is, because of course we don't have a magical liquid natural gas machine here, we got to drill for it and extract it out of the finite supply that exists within the wells that have been drilled here in America. So again, we've got people that need it. We've got less of it on the market because Russia is not pumping it. Oh, and by the way, we did the video on the Nord Stream pipeline that was disrupted. Well, okay, that takes even more. You got natural gas just venting out into the ocean. Okay, so whoever did that, keep this in mind, whoever did that is responsible for the largest environmental act of terrorism ever. Okay, whoever did it. Now, Europe has relied on liquid natural gas imports to offset the loss of Russian gas, with nearly 70% of U.S. liquid natural gas exports heading to Europe in September. So think about that. If 70% of LNG is going to Europe that we export, there's got to be other places that are not going to get the natural gas that they were getting from us, okay? Which further constrains supply and further puts us in a situation where it pushes that price up. In the long term, Europe will have to find other sources of natural gas as its inventories are likely to drain over the upcoming winter. Ultimately, Europe will have to reduce demand for natural gas going forward as there's very little available supply left. So they're going to have to go back to nuclear. Okay, they're going to have to because it's relatively clean. The technology has been updated. Otherwise, hey, they'll have to export oil or some other energy source. They're not going to go back to the dark ages, right? Well, you would hope not. But Germany has proven that if Greta says go back to the dark ages, then go back to the dark ages they will. So in order to keep Europe in the war, America's got to do what it's got to do. And here we are with the price constraints. Now look, what we do on this channel is we try to look at what's going on in the world with an eye toward maintaining your ability to purchase assets. Okay. We don't recommend assets. We talk about assets. You got to go out there and do your due diligence. But in order to keep as much money flowing for you to do that, then you've got to be able to save, in this case, on your energy costs. So I'm going to go old school with you guys, and look, I went to Costco. My wife and I went to Costco this weekend. And one of the things I picked up was this. This is a very heavy gauge shirt. Okay, just a throw over shirt that I'll use to walk around the house in during the winter. Honestly, we keep the thermostat. At night, we turn it down to 67. And I mean, we're in the bed, right? We got blankets on the bed, right? We don't pay the gas and electric company for the blankets. They're not electric blankets. They're just good old blankets. This thing even has fleece inside. So look, I hate to sound like Jimmy Carter. Some of you may remember Jimmy Carter during the energy crisis in the 1970s. He came out and told people, put on a sweater. Jimmy wasn't lying. It didn't go over well for the president of the United States to say, hey, look, I got all this power vested in me, and the best thing I can tell you to do is wear a sweater. But I'm not the president of the United States, okay? Now, this next one, depending on where you live, this can help you out. If you open the shades during the day and let that sunlight in. I know that in the summertime, we close the shades because it heats up the house. So open the shade. This is not coming from Tyrone. This is coming from the U.S. Department of Energy. Okay, so this is a good one. Trust me, I know this works. Now, if you live when we grew up, we lived in a row home in Baltimore City, and my grandmother's house was on the corner lot, but we were in the middle of the block, and we had front windows and back windows, no side windows. So it was noticeably warmer in my grandmother's house when she had the shades up during the summer and the winter than it was in our interior house. So you got to do what you can do, right? Now, I already told you that we lowered the thermostat at night, keep it at 67. And I'm not saying that, it's going to get to be, those sub-zero days and we're going to be able to do that. No, but for the most part, okay, we're able to do that. But the other thing I did just a few weeks ago, I looked around at these windows that we have in the house and made sure that, they were shutting properly, sealed up. There's a drafty little bay type window, bow window rather, in the bedroom, in one of the bedrooms, and we need to go ahead. I got some plastic that I'm going to put over that. I do that every winter. So there are things you can do. And I know it sounds like, I thought he was going to come with some super, out of this world recommendation. Look, there's only so much you can do, right? I always say, and this is an adult channel, that's why I'll say this. Sex is like pizza. There are only so many ways you can get it, right? So it's the same way with heating your home. There are only so many ways you can do that, right? And you want to keep as much warm air as possible inside. You know who's a fanatic about climate control within a structure? My dad. He is an HVAC trained guy, owned his own HVAC and heating business. And man, you want to talk about a guy that can go on forever about the subject. And he has some really good tips about how to keep your home warm and cool efficiently and cost effectively in both summer and winter. Maybe one day I'll have them on. I don't know. Take a look at this video. The wheat and corn crops are under stress, and that means higher prices. We talk about why that is, give you some insight on those markets and what we can expect going forward with regard to food inflation. Guys, I'll talk to you soon.